So there is a phenomenon that's taking place all over the entire world right now. It's still in the relatively early stages of igniting. And so because of that, most people don't know about it and they haven't heard of it. Am Yisrael consisted of 12 tribes. 10 of those tribes were exiled. Now, in our generation, various communities coming forward and saying, we are the descendants of those lost tribes. And we came from Israel 2,000 years ago. We preserved our unique identity. We preserved many of the mitzvot, and we have been isolated from the communities and the peoples that we've lived amongst. And now we realize that we are a part of the Jewish people and we want to return. So that's like the big picture, high level. That is happening right now. Most people haven't heard about it. This is a story that's been in the works for 3,000 years.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Homebound to Eretz Yisrael. I'm your host, Michal Weichbrod. You already know that. Unless you're new around here, which is crazy because everybody knows about this podcast. We talk about Eretz Yisrael, we talk about Aliyah, we talk about the important things going on in Klal Yisrael, and today we are talking about something really special that we don't talk about too much, with somebody really special who's really involved in that something that's really special. Today we have Noam. Again, I forget your name. What's your name? Noam. I don't know anyone's last names. I don't know my own last name.
Noam Liebman.
Noam Liebman. Why is Noam Liebman so special? Okay, Noam Liebman is involved. Besides the fact that Noam himself is an extremely special human being, you're going to find out soon his story, his journey. But specifically, what we're going to talk about this towards the second half of today's podcast, so you'll want to stay tuned. Noam is involved in, he's him and his friend Rudy, or his partner Rudy Rachman, who some of you guys may know of. They're almost done. Be'ezrat Hashem, making a 6-part docuseries called "We Were Never Lost" about called the Lost Tribes of Israel, Jews specifically in Africa as of right now, who you probably never heard about, you don't know about, you probably never heard anything about. And Noam and Rudy, his partner, are making a film and are going to bring you guys the information about what is going on out there, and that they're, we here at Homebound, we are involved in Aliyah. We are helping bring Jews back, in gathering of the exiles, keep us going, call it whatever you want. That's what we're doing here. That's our main job. But we're bringing Jews back basically from America and Europe and, your fellow friends and family members. Noam is doing this in a whole nother level, a crazy level, a level where he's going to the places where you never heard of these Jews, and he's trying to find a way to get them back home. So we're going to hear from Noam today, and it's going to be really good. Noam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for the work that you've been doing, because I feel like you have really found a space in the Jewish world that was lacking, and the Torah observant world in America, which is spending so much of their energy focusing on Judaism and fulfilling the Torah and completely lacking the element of Eretz Yisrael. And when I first saw your content, I was very interested in it, and I learned a lot from it. So I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing as well.
Of course, my pleasure. My pleasure. I appreciate that. Okay, let's start from the top, Noam, because the truth is, I don't know your story. I don't know much about your story, and I want the viewers to hear more about We Were Never Lost. So we've got a lot to talk about. This particular episode, I would highly suggest you guys stick it out to the end, because I never say that. Everyone always like says like, oh, the best part's at the end. They try to keep the viewers hooked. So, but this one's for real, because I'm genuinely very interested in everything you have to say, and I think it's going to be really awesome. So let's start like this. Noam, you mentioned to me 2 minutes ago that you grew up in a less than Orthodox background. So give us your background. How did you get to where you are? How did you become an Orthodox religious Jew? And how did you get to Eretz Yisrael?
Thank you for the question. So first, I just want to say that I don't actually see myself as Orthodox, even though I observe the Torah to the best of my ability, keep Shabbat, keep Kashrut, and do many of the practices that Orthodox Jews do. But I believe that neither the Orthodox or the Reform community that I grew up in is really doing things in the right way. They're both missing out on a lot. And so I kind of reject the labels, and I think that is something that our generation should be working towards, is just rejecting these labels and categories of Jews. But in the upbringing that I came from, I was born in Minnesota, and there's not that many Jews in Minnesota compared to the other cities in America. And a big portion of them would classify themselves as Reform Jews. So growing up Reform, you know that you're Jewish, but your observance of Judaism is a bit more surface level. It's a bit more symbolic, as opposed to a deep understanding or belief. You know, there's a real lack of belief, of emunah, of an understanding that there is a creator of the universe within Reform Judaism. And so that's the environment that I was raised in, and I want to say that I'm grateful for the Judaism that was passed to me and, you know, what I was taught from my parents, but it definitely lacked the greater context and the meaning that I think I was looking for. So that's kind of, that's a little bit about the background, okay? So then I could kind of categorize my Jewish awakening, my Pinta Yid moment, to one evening. I was studying abroad. I was in my last semester of college, and growing up in a lot of the circles I was in, I was one of the only Jews, and so I always knew I was Jewish. I wasn't ashamed of it, but I also wasn't like needing to express it or talk about it in any way. But I did join the Jewish fraternity at my university. And so I met other Jews and I was familiar with Jewish life. And somehow in that process, I got a t-shirt that said Israel on it. It was gifted to me. Okay, so fast forward to my senior year of college, and I'm studying abroad in Australia. And there is an orientation session for the whole university. Everyone's coming together, all the students. And I just happened to be wearing my Israel shirt that day. It wasn't a conscious decision. I was just like, you know, I didn't care. And when I went to that event, there was a group of Arab students who were staring at me. And there was a group of maybe 5 or 6 of them kind of sitting in a circle. And I could tell that they were like pointing at me and looking at me and probably speaking about me. And I realized that it was because I was wearing an Israel shirt. And all I knew is that I think these guys don't like Israel. And I know that a lot of people don't like Israel, but I don't really know why. And a part of me feels like it's unjustified. You know, I don't know the history and the wars and everything that's happened, but a part of me feels like this hatred that I've started to see on my college campus, and, you know, this feeling that I'm getting from these guys staring at me is piquing my curiosity. And I had this aha moment where I realized that if these guys were to come over to me right now and have a conversation about Israel, I wouldn't really know the first thing. I wouldn't be able to speak about the topic. And I felt like if I'm a Jewish person and I can't speak about Israel, that's a problem. You know, I knew enough about Jewish history to know that we went through the Holocaust and nobody came to rescue us. Nobody came to stand up for us or to speak for us. We were really on our own. And so I think just that limited amount of knowledge was enough to say, as a Jewish person, I'm going to start learning about Israel, because if I get into these conversations, I want to be able to represent myself and hopefully represent my people. So that was like the starting point where literally that night I went on Wikipedia and I started reading the history of Israel. I started watching documentaries. I started listening to whatever content I could find about Israel. And very quickly, I realized that this history of Israel is the greatest story of all time. And not only is it a story of a broken and scattered people who are spread out around the world, who somehow maintain their unique identity, but they manage to come back in this generation. Like, I happen to be alive in the time when we're at a climax in this thousands of year old story. And not only is the story happening, but I'm a part of it by the fact that I'm Jewish. So little by little, I started to kind of put these pieces together and feel like, okay, there is something inside of me that wants to understand, that wants to connect more to this identity and this history. And little by little, I discovered this burning passion that I had for all things Israel.
This is also pre-October 7th.
Oh yeah, this started in 2016.
After October 7th, things changed. Like this is like everything you're saying now, like became much more kind of, I feel like a mainstream of like nowadays, if you're a Jew on college campus and you put on an Israel t-shirt, like this whole story is like you're already like, you know, all this, you know what's happening, you know you're gonna get hate, you know you're connected to your Jewish roots. So this was still more of like a kiddush, I think.
Yeah, it definitely was before the explosion post October 7th. There still was very loud and active anti-Israel groups, but they were smaller, and so I think I just noticed it, and yeah, I just felt this inner sense of responsibility to be able to speak up. But again, this was coming from a completely like secular, kind of historical, logical perspective. I was not interested in the Torah. I didn't believe in the Torah. And I didn't grow up around anybody who believed in the Torah. In fact, the idea of believing in religion was very much like mocked and looked down upon in the environment that I grew up in. And just also like Orthodox Jews in general, I feel like were very much looked down upon in kind of the Reform space that I was in, and looked at as something very other. Like they're Jews and we're Jews, but we're Reform Jews. And that's like a totally different category. And so we're separate from them.
We're the new modern, up-to-date Jews.
Something like that. I think, yeah, we're just more logical. We're more connected to the reality that we're living in. So little by little, my interest in Israel is building. I even discover that I have a great uncle who made Aliyah in 1947, and he wrote a book. And so I read his book, and it was extremely inspiring to see how this guy went from Minnesota and basically gave up his whole life and comfort of America to be one of the pioneers in Israel. He put his family on a boat. He bought round-trip tickets to Haifa, and his family got off the boat and never got back on. And he helped establish a kibbutz in the north called Kfar Blum. And so that story, even though I didn't know him, I was very inspired by it. And I kind of felt like, wow, my ancestors do have a connection to this land and being here. And so I started coming on every single trip to Israel that I could. I had already done Birthright, but I went back again as a staffer, like leading the group. And then I found all the other opportunities for American Jews to come to Israel, whether it's a volunteering trip or an educational trip. And I kind of maxed out all of the free opportunities that there are. And there's a lot for young American Jews. I think I came to Israel 5 times before I ever purchased a flight. Wow. So I maxed out all my free trips to Israel. Every time that I was there, I was enjoying it more and more. I was feeling like I am a part.
By the way, you're a Jew. If you put your head to it, you could have continued to come to Israel for free for the rest of your life. It's in your blood.
Yeah, well, I guess it got to a point where I said, I'm willing to pay for this now.
Yeah. Ooh, beautiful.
So, right. So I did all the free trips, and by this point, I was living in New York City. I was building my video production business, and I had my skill set for filmmaking. And I started to get more and more involved in Israel activism. There were some opportunities that came up where different groups on college campuses asked me to make videos about Israel. And little by little, I started to meet more people in this space. And I felt like every single day I'm talking about Israel. I'm learning about the news in Israel. Like I'm obsessing over Israel. Why am I still in the US? Like, why am I an outsider where there's this incredible story that's taking place and I'm looking at it from the outside? Like, I need to participate in the story. I need to be a part of the story. So I didn't come to this conclusion quickly, but a couple of years of thinking about if Aliyah is right for me, when I did finally come to the conclusion, my mindset was, I am 100% going to spend the rest of my life in Israel. There's no, I'm going to test it out and give it a trial run and go for a few months and see how it goes. I was like, this is crystal clear and I need to make Aliyah. So 5 years ago is when I first made Aliyah. I say I made like a second Aliyah because I moved to Jerusalem, after my first year and a half in Israel. And that's kind of like another level up in terms of spiritual. Like I said, I was still completely secular throughout this whole process and basically did not believe that like God was real or that the Torah was real. I thought that it was basically some story that people had made up that had wisdom in it. And so people kept to it because it provided them comfort and value, and that's kind of where I held for many years. But because I had decided to move to Israel, I knew that I was lacking a foundational understanding of Judaism that I wasn't given growing up. And so I said, if I'm going to live in the land of Israel, I think I should know more about the beliefs of the people of Israel. And so I decided to go to yeshiva, not because I wanted to be religious or observe anything. I just felt kind of the same responsibility that I felt when these Arab students were looking at me and judging me is I have a responsibility to know about Israel. And now that I'm in Israel, I have a responsibility to know more about the Torah.
But let me ask you, if the majority of the country is still secular, what made you decide that, if you were a secular, semi-reformed or whatever it is Jew, technically you should feel more comfortable that way than you should as a religious, or what, I know you don't like labels, but as a more Torah observant Jew, like
Torah aligned is
aligned,
that's the phrase I like to use.
Torah aligned, yeah. Like why would you feel like that's how you, like you're in Eretz Yisrael, like why do you feel like that's your way to connect more to the Jewish people? Like in a certain sense, like our fine Jews stuck in the exile, they're all thinking kind of the exact opposite. Like Eretz is the religion in a certain sense of Zionism, as they like to call it, is sort of just, I am a Jew by the fact that I'm connected to the land of Israel and that I, value my Jewish identity and I wear a Magen David necklace and that makes me a Jew. Right. So what made you, as a person who was really coming from that background, say, I want to know more about the Torah?
Right. So it was two things. One, it was curiosity. Like when I would see some Jews praying, I was like, wow, they really, like, this is real for them. What is it that they're so connected to? I was just kind of curious about the intensity with which religious Jews were observing religiosity.
Was this mostly at the Kotel that you were experiencing this?
It was at the Kotel, also kind of right when I got to yeshiva. I started at Machon Meir, which is an amazing institution. And I think that was one of the first places that I saw like that these people are very serious about it. They're not doing it because they were pressured by their parents or because they were told this is what they should do. Like they really just believed in it with all their heart. And that's what was guiding them. So there was a curiosity. And then there was also trying to understand what the heck was going on with anti-Semitism. Because as I learned more about the story of our people, of course, the story of anti-Semitism, this hatred, this insane bigotry that shifts throughout time. And the end result is the same, which is that a society turns against Jewish people, but the way in which they get to their conclusion in each generation is different. It morphs. And so I would read, like when I was at the beginning of my journey, watching videos about Israel and reading some of the comments and just seeing so much hatred. And I was like, wow, it's still here. This hatred that killed 6 million of us a couple generations ago is still here. It's still active. I think a lot of people, at least in American Jews, felt like there was a period of time where anti-Semitism was like done, that it got so bad that it peaked and now it's going to be okay from here on out.
And this was still pre-October 7th.
Yes,
this was only multiplied by 10,000 in the past 2 years.
Right. But if you were looking at Israel-related things, you would still find a lot of anti-Semitism in the comment section. It wasn't like screaming on every single major podcast network in the world, but it was there. So I think I was curious because I was like, how is it possible that in every generation they turn against us and we're not able to get past this hatred? Like there must be something going on here. It's not a coincidence. In the secular world, you tend to think, at least I was taught growing up, that everything was a coincidence. There's so many coincidences. Things are random. But slowly, I've learned gradually that there's actually no coincidences. So that anti-Semitism, it really piqued my curiosity and my understanding. And then when I learned that there are certain verses in the Torah that describe anti-Semitism is something that we will always experience. It's something that will never go away. And by design, Hashem basically created it for a reason, and it's not ever going to disappear. And so when I started to learn about some of these prophecies and things that were written about, thousands of years ago that have come true and are still true today, then I started to say, wait a minute, something's going on here, that these are not just coincidences. These are not just random. I want to go deeper. So during this process, when I'm at yeshiva, I only spent 2 to 3 months there in total. But I read Derech Hashem.
Ooh.
And I think it's Hashkacha Platit that to get to your Geula Center, I had to turn on Derech Hashem, the road, just to get here. So that clicked in my mind. But I remember reading Derech Hashem, and I remember reading about how the Ramchal describes there's the physical world and there's the spiritual world, and everything that exists in this realm has a counterpart that's equal to it in a different realm, in a different dimension. And some of these ideas kind of made sense to me, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't understand how that was a real thing because all I know is the physical world that I can touch and taste and smell and feel. Like you're telling me logically that there's something beyond this physical world, but I can't tap into it. And I think because I grew up, like I said, around nobody who believed in God or expressed that was even a valid opinion to hold, there was a barrier, there was like a blockage, some sort of layer that was preventing me from tapping into anything. I would tell the rabbis later after Machon Meir, I went to Eshet Torah, and I would tell the rabbis, I don't have a spiritual bone in my body. I don't know what spirituality is. I've never felt it, and I see that other people seem to be feeling it. So like, how do I tap into that? What is that? And then I had my first experience with magic mushrooms.
I figured you'd say that. Yeah.
Have you ever had an experience with that?
Magic mushrooms?
Or any psychedelics?
No, I have not.
So
I get high off Torah.
That's amazing. And I think for many people, maybe they don't need it. But for someone who was in my situation, I felt like I never would have been able to break out of the kind of framework that I was in without this sort of tool. And the way I see it is that Hashem put certain forms of natural plants into the world that are not tampered with. They're not made in a lab. They're not designed by a scientist. They just grow from the earth. And when you consume these plants in a responsible environment with trusted people, responsible people who, are looking out for your best interest and are there to hold the right space, what these substances do is they expand your consciousness. And it's a little bit hard to explain what that feels like until you experience it yourself. But the best analogy that I can come up with is when you first wake up in the morning, you're a little bit groggy and you're kind of like, okay, where am I? Okay, I'm in bed. I just woke up from sleeping. And after a minute or two, you're more awake and you're like, okay, I'm in my house. I know where I am. Okay, so there's some sort of transition from when you first wake up where your consciousness is lower, you're a little bit disoriented. And then after a minute or two, you're like, I know it. I know where I am. I know what's going on. So when you do psychedelics, you're basically turning that dial up further and further. And the awareness of your reality of being alive becomes stronger. And so when that happened to me, all of the concepts that I had been learning about in yeshiva that I found interesting and they kind of made sense on a logical basis, they suddenly just snapped into place in like one instant moment where I felt like, wow, this whole story is true. It's a real story. It actually checks out. I mean, the fact that the entire world is obsessed with our people and has been, there's been hatred against our nation for so long, the pieces started to fit into place. And I realized, okay, I think I can finally say like openly and proudly that this is a real story and I'm a part of the story and I have the ability to contribute to the story because, I'm in it. And during that psychedelic trip, there were some paintings on the wall of different rabbis, like very artistic, colorful paintings. And one of the things that happens when you're on psychedelics is you have hallucinations. So things start to move. You start to see colors and shapes that your normal eyes wouldn't pick up on.
You spoke to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and Rav Nachman.
Not quite. And what was interesting about this is it wasn't even like known rabbis. I mean, I didn't recognize the rabbis. Maybe they were some, but I thought they were just kind of artistic, trippy paintings, colorful paintings. And these rabbis came alive and they were blinking and they were breathing and they were, alive on the wall looking at me. They're up on the wall kind of looking down at me. And they didn't speak to me, but I could feel this sort of energy, this sort of attitude that they were emitting. Like there was a judgment that was coming from them that they were emitting. And the way that I interpreted is they were saying, Noam, you know how difficult our experience was in the diaspora. You know how hard we needed to suffer just to preserve the Torah, just to keep this identity alive and not die out. You know what we went through and we didn't have anything and we suffered. And now here you are back in the land of Israel with more resources and more opportunities than we could have ever imagined in our lives. What are you going to do with it?
Wow.
And that really penetrated me because I was already on this journey of finding meaning and interest in my own identity. But now that something like opened inside of me, almost like, sometimes the neshama is described as a light bulb or a light.
Yeah.
And over time, if you don't tend to it, if you don't treat it, it can get covered with black paint. So if you cover a light bulb with enough layers of black paint, none of the light will emit. And so in that moment, it felt like for me that there were cracks in the paint, and my neshama was like shining for the first time.
Wow.
So since that moment, that kind of made me say, okay, I need to take this Judaism more seriously, not just living in the land of Israel, but actually understanding the Torah of Israel and, observing it and finding meaning in it and learning it. And that was a big turning point for me.
Wow.
In this journey.
So you're saying if we give psychedelic mushrooms to all of our fellow Jews in the exile, they'll probably just start flocking home, no?
So that's the thing. Psychedelic experiences for each person are very different, and it depends where they're at in their life and what they're dealing with. Yeah. But I will say that for a lot of people, it's like a truth bomb. It's like you just get hit with like a dose of reality, and you kind of check yourself in many different ways where you think, has my behavior been right? Is the decisions that I've made, like, are they actually matim? Are they accurate for me? And
kind of separates your consciousness from yourself, and then your subconscious just starts talking to you as if it's like a separate entity.
Yeah, you get more in touch with your truest self, and any layer of ego or of superficiality kind of melts away.
Wow.
And it's heavy. I mean, it's not all fun and games. I mean, from my experience, thank God, like I feel like so many dark, traumatic things to unpack. Like I was just running towards the light and the positivity, but I know, and I'll kind of give a warning since I'm basically pitching psychedelics, that for a lot of people, it is a moment where they unpack difficult things in their lives, and after they go through it, they're very happy that they went through it, but it might be challenging. It might be emotionally challenging to go through that. But once they process that, they feel much better, more connected.
Right. So just for the viewers out there, here at Homebound, we do not endorse psychedelic drugs, but, if you think it's right for you, you can, reach out and we'll get you connected. Psychedelic. You're not the first person I heard that has told me that psychedelic drugs really created their connection to spirituality. I see it kind of like almost like an accident or something, a sickness in someone's life. Not that it's not that it's a bad thing, but you don't want to be able to get close to God through one of these ulterior ways. You want to be able to wake up one day, open up a sefer, or meet somebody, get inspired by something, and build a connection to Hashem, find the truth, But for some people, that just doesn't happen. Like you were saying, you just couldn't find that spiritual connection. Right. Some people, they get sick and they find God. Some people, they get into an accident, they find God. Some people, they have a psychedelic trip and they find God. So definitely none of these things are lichatchila, as they say. But Hashem has unbelievable ways of, gathering in his holy children. For
sure. And waking up the souls. I mean, that for me was a couple of different points of spiritual and identity awakening. I actually want to mention something about the word religion, because I've heard you mention it a few times, and because you have a platform where lots of people listen to you, I think that one of the important steps in the period of Jewish identity that we're in the idea of getting rid of these labels of the Reform and the Orthodox and Conservative, even calling our practice religion, I think is somewhat problematic, and it's not really accurate to the Jewish people.
I hear Rudy Rachman talk about this all the time.
This is one of the things that really related to me, because I was a Jew who wasn't interested in religion. I'm not into religion. So of course I don't want to be in the religion of Judaism. But if you're telling me that Judaism is the spiritual practices of an ancient civilization of people that preserved their practices, well then that's more interesting to me. And I can be a part of that even if I'm not necessarily fully involved in religion. There's a lot of stigma that comes with that word, and I feel like we need to disconnect ourselves from it because our identity and our practices existed long before the concept of religion even became a thing. And we sort of put ourselves into that box as a result of being in the diaspora, as a result of living amongst other religions. We defined ourselves as a religion, but...
So how would you classify Judaism or the Jewish people? How do you I'm totally open to what you're saying, and I don't think there is one word that can really encapsulate what we are as a Jewish people, but I'd love to, how would you describe it if you can use 1, 2, or even up to 5 words?
The Jewish nation is an ancient civilization. Just like
That makes us special because we're ancient? Because we're the first civilization?
No, but it's a differentiating point from a religious group. Because, as you know, it's very difficult to join the Jewish people. Whereas if you want to join a religion, it's pretty easy, it's pretty quick, and the religions are actually trying to convince other people to join, whereas we're doing the opposite. We're pushing people away. So it is similar to other ancient indigenous civilizations like Native Americans, like Aztecs and Mayans, who they were very connected to a specific piece of land. They had a spiritual system, a unique identity, but nobody calls them a religion. And someone could even join their society if they went through a lengthy process of really proving that they are fully invested and are going to see this nation as their family. They can join the family. But I think that it's kind of like a psychological switch that we need to make to stop thinking ourselves as a religion. And that was something that helped me in my journey to become more interested in the Jewish people because, I didn't care about religion. I was from a secular society where religion was laughed at.
So how's this? Like, as you're talking, I was just trying to think, how would I classify it? How's about this? The Torah refers to us as the priests unto God. God's priests. I think that encapsulates what we are pretty good, no?
Yes, it just sounds very religious. And
well, I'm sorry.
priests of God sounds very religious, whereas, this ancient family that turned into a nation over time that has a unique purpose and lifestyle and language, that's what resonated with me.
But it's much more than just that.
Correct.
I think priests. I think priests of God. The way the Torah refers to us. I think that actually does make sense because that would really explain everything we are. Because Avram, like Hashem, was opened to anyone. At least that's what Chazal tells. God was open to anyone taking on the mission of mankind to be able to perfect the world and bring God's presence into this world, to be able to perfect the world. So, what is the job of a priest? We're just using the word priest because that's probably the most generic word for this. But, a priest is somebody who goes around and influences people to become closer to God, or he preaches, he speaks. Avram Avinu stepped up to the plate. He made it clear that he was ready to take on this mission, and God chose him to be the first priest of God. What was his job? His job was going around the world, influencing people to become closer to God and build a relationship with God. It would also probably explain why, on one hand, anyone can become part of the Jewish people. On the other hand, we're the only religion that doesn't proselytize. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Proselytize. Because when you're a priest, religion wants everyone, if you're a Muslim or a Christian, you're all about missionary work. You want to bring everyone into your religion because you're like, that's the base of the whole thing. We need to get everybody on board to our religion to really prove that our religion will be the final religion. It proves if we can get everyone part of our religion, it'll prove to the world that we are the real religion if everyone's part of us. We don't have that. We don't need that. We know we're the priests of God. And so therefore, that's why we don't do missionary work. And the opposite, like if you want to become a Jew, we try to first push you away. We say, this is not for you. This is hard work. If you want to do this, once you get involved in this, you can't go back. This is very serious work. And that really would, I think that would be a good description of what a priest of God is.
What I would say is that each Jew connects to Judaism through their own unique context. And if that works for you, then that's amazing. When I hear the word priest, because it's an English word and because throughout my whole life it was associated with the church, the church has a priest. I wasn't really hearing that.
Just for a lack of better word.
Right. But I'm saying, so for that word, for me personally, it doesn't hit. But I think for each person, really what they need to find is the way that they can connect with the Torah, because it will be different for different people. given who they are. And that was the struggle for me, because I grew up in a world where there's like the Orthodox path, which sounds very different and distant from what I'm familiar with. And then the Reform path is kind of lacking like a deep connection and value in the Torah and the commitment that the Torah is real. So my point here is that each person needs to find their own why, their own reason that motivates them and connects them to this bigger project of Am Yisrael trying to bring about world peace.
Well, I will want to say that I feel like you're coming from a point of view that a lot of people come from, which is more like a peace and love sort of thing. Like everyone has their own way, everyone has their own path of connecting to God and this and that. Although I'd like to agree to that, and I think it's beautiful. Everyone can connect to God in their own special, unique way. As the Jewish people, I don't know that anyone could disagree that if you don't keep Shabbos, if you don't keep kosher, God still loves you. Hashem absolutely loves you. Your fellow brothers and sisters, the Jewish people, they love you. It doesn't make you a bad person, but the acts you're doing are wrong. If you're a Jew, I don't care where you're from and where your background is. Obviously, there's a concept of tinek shenishba, right? If you don't know better, okay, that's up to Hashem and that's up to the individual person. But overall, every Jew must keep all. It's written on your T-shirt, 613 commandments. And by the way, living in Eretz Yisrael is one of them. Just want to throw that out there. But so again, like on one hand, I'm all for the whole we love everybody approach, and that's great for care work. But if we're getting down to business, you do have to keep all of the commandments laid out in the Torah in order to be a healthy Jew. It's just the way it is.
Right, and your relationship is ideally a balance of love and awe. You have awe. And so my point was that some people are going to connect more through that kind of fear punishment style, and some people are going to connect more through the love style. So at the end of the day, we're getting to the same place, but based on a person's upbringing, the things that are going to resonate with them and draw them closer will be different. So everyone kind of has to find their derech to connect with the Torah. But the Torah is, the guidebook, which has clear instructions for what's expected of Jewish people. But the way that I connected to my Judaism was probably different than how most other Jews connect. So that was kind of where I was getting at.
Yeah, that's totally fun. I hear that. No, yeah, 100%. And yeah, everyone has their own way. And yeah, I understand that people like to have this conversation about are we a religion? Are we a people? Are we a nationality? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you want to label it. I think we're all of those things. We're all of those things.
When we started calling ourselves a religion?
After we got the Torah, it depends who you're referring to. I'm not sure.
Like when Jewish people started using the
English
word religion to
right, that's what I'm saying. It's
themselves.
An English word. I'm saying it depends how you want to refer to it.
Uh-huh.
So,
the story that I'm familiar with
Yeah.
is that in France, when Napoleon Bonaparte had his kingdom and basically decided who gets rights and who doesn't get rights, at that time the Jews did not have rights. And so Napoleon was considering if he should grant the right to vote, the right to own land, the right to be able to prosper to the Jewish people. And he took the leaders at the time and basically posed the question to them, are you Jews living in France, or are you Frenchmen with a religion called Judaism? And they knew that the only way that they were going to get their rights was to say, we're Frenchmen first and foremost. So they basically were forced into a position that in order to survive and thrive, they had to downplay their Jewish identity. And from that moment, we basically started identifying as like German people with a Jewish religion and Polish people with a German religion. And that was like a symptom of our prolonged experience in the diaspora.
Right, I hear you. Right, so you're touching on the idea of like separating the religion from the people we are, which is a problem, right? Because like you have a lot of Jews who say, I'm a proud Jew, I'm just not religious. But that's a problem. That's a problem. You can be a proud Jew, but you do have to be religious. If you're not religious, you can be proud of that, but there are consequences to those actions. You do have to be religious. And when I say religious, meaning religiously keeping the commandments in the Torah. I think that's what it's referring to. These are all, it's like in every conversation, right? Like, so again, you're familiar with people doing debates. So the concept in debates is very important. Define your terms, right? That's always the concept. And that's the most important thing, because you could have I see this all the time. With any debate, with any conversation, you could have two people arguing about something for hours at end, and they're actually arguing about two completely separate things because
Sure.
they're both using one word, but they have completely different meanings of what that word means. So yeah, it's how you want to classify it. But the fact is, we are a people, we are a nation. We are bound by two things: the land and the Torah. That's how we're bound by, and both of those things create a relationship between us and God. That's the whole thing, because we're not bound by ancestry, because anyone can join the Jewish people. We're bound by those two things: keeping the commandments in the Torah and Eretz Yisrael.
Mm-hmm. But when we use that word, you have to be religious. Most of us think that means, you're referring to eating kosher and not lighting a fire on Shabbat and wrapping tefillin. But what resonated with me is that even a secular person who goes and returns a lost item that he found is doing something religious. That's a religious act that he's doing. He probably doesn't consider it like that. And so, there's 613 commandments. No individual person can do all of them. It's impossible for one person to do all 613. So we kind of all have to do it together. And I think each of us is on our own journey to doing more and more, and connecting with more, and having the opportunity to do more. But for me, that process was gradual, and I'm still in the journey right now.
No, we're all on the journey. Nobody ever reaches the end of the journey. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to the main event. Boom, 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 boom. No, not that your story wasn't the main event. I don't mean to be offensive here.
No, I agree. The story of We Were Never Lost is much bigger than me.
Wow,
there's no comparison.
It's much bigger than me too. Like I told you, I'm jealous. I'm not jealous of a lot of people. I'm not jealous of money or honor or anything like that. I'm jealous of the work you're doing. Like, if there's anything that I can add to my, under my belt, it would be We Were Never Lost. It would be that. I still want to get involved. We should talk about that. I would love. This is so mind-blowingly fascinating to me. Although I could never have done what you did, travel to Africa and do all this stuff, because the family and all. So let's talk about this. So We Were Never Lost. You tell us. Tell the viewers what it is. Mm-hmm. And then let's talk about the journey, and tell us what is the project, how it got started, why it's so crucial, and what the misconceptions people just don't understand. Like we'll get to it. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so there is a phenomenon that's taking place all over the entire world right now, and it's still in the relatively early stages of igniting. And so because of that, most people don't know about it and they haven't heard of it. But as we know, Am Yisrael consisted of 12 tribes, and 10 of those tribes were exiled, spread into the diaspora, and the Jewish people lost connection with them. And, it's written in the Gemara, there's uncertainty as to whether or not we're going to reconnect with them. Are they going to come back? We don't know. We just know that we used to be made up of 12 tribes, and we got separated, and we lost them. And that's basically been the understanding throughout thousands of years of Jewish history. Now, in our generation, what we're seeing around the world is various communities coming forward and saying, we are the descendants of those lost tribes. And we came from Israel 2,000 years ago. We preserved our unique identity. We preserved many of the mitzvot, and we have been isolated from the communities and the peoples that we've lived amongst. And now we realize that we are a part of the Jewish people, and we want to return. And they are returning with an extreme desire and commitment to really learn the authentic Torah of Israel and to observe it and live as Jews and be a part of the Jewish nation. So that's like the big picture, high level. That is happening right now. Most people haven't heard about it. Very soon, I think they will hear about it. And then I think it will be an international conversation amongst all Jewish people around the world, basically saying, now that we know this is going on, what is our responsibility? What do we do about this? Wow. Now, the documentary came about through Rudy Rockman. So Rudy is an amazing activist, representative of Jewish people. We first met probably 8 years ago when he was a student at Columbia University, and I was getting involved in my video production, combined with Israel activism work. So we met through that process, and I was very impressed because I realized that he knew more about this topic than most of the other college students in the space, and his commitment to, pushing Jewish history forward was at a very high level. So Rudy had heard that there were some of these communities around the world that claimed to be Jews, and he was very curious about it. What's going on there? How come he hasn't heard of this? And he decided that he wanted to go there and see it for himself. And so he brought up the idea to me, and we were already making videos at the time, and he said, Noam, I think we should go to explore this and kind of film. Let's make some videos about it. We didn't really know the extent of the phenomenon at the time. We just knew that there was these communities that were not recognized as Jewish people, but they were practicing Judaism, and some of them were in Africa. So we started researching, and we realized that there is a decent amount of information about this subject. There are a handful of Israelis who have been visiting these communities, who have written books about these communities, who have documented and tried to support them in some limited capacity. But so the information's out there; it's just not easily accessible. So little by little, we built connections with the Jewish people who were in touch with these communities, had visited them, were able to introduce us to them. And we realized, we're gonna make a movie about this. We gotta document this. We didn't really know what the vision was at the beginning, but the more we researched, the more it started to come together that in each of these countries, there's a very different story. It's not just like one, African Jewish story in every single place, or diaspora Jewish. Like each community has a very unique journey that they've been on, and they're also at a different level in terms of the process of returning back to Am Yisrael. So we did a crowdfunding campaign. We started raising funds from just any Jew who liked the idea. We made a little video talking about what the concept was. And then we started traveling.
Is that the video of Rudy Rachman walking down the sidewalk?
Yeah, in Florida.
I remember seeing that.
That's awesome.
How long ago was that?
6 years.
Oh, wow. I probably didn't see it when it first came up, but I remember I did see that, and that's when I found out about this thing.
It was before COVID. I think it was... Yeah, before it was right at COVID had started. Right. Okay, so around that time. So we realized we need to raise some money, but we didn't. Like I said, we didn't realize quite the extent of the phenomenon yet. We just knew that we needed to get there and start documenting it and exploring it. And we met with various Israelis who were able to tell us about their experiences and how they had been involved. And it's amazing because there actually are several people who are prominent characters in our documentary who have been visiting these communities for 30 plus years, and they help them learn shechita, and they help them to observe mitzvot, and nothing is being pushed on them. I want to make it very clear that within all of these communities, they are knocking on the door of the Jewish people and saying, please let us in. We want to learn the authentic Torah. We want to make sure that we're doing this right, and we want to be connected to other Jews. So people might have, you asked me about misconceptions, there might be a misconception that okay, there's just people in third world countries that are suffering, and Jews think that they can spread their Judaism by pushing it on them. But it's the total reverse. It's people who are preserving an origin story that they came from Israel. And now that they have more access to information and books and the internet, they basically put the pieces together and said, because we keep Brit Milah on the 8th day, because we have Rosh Chodesh, because we have a diet that is almost the exact same as kashrut, we must be Jews. We must have the same culture as these other people. So really what's happening is they are not only reaching out to Jewish people, but they are moving forward on their own. And they're not waiting around for recognition or permission from the rest of the Jewish world. They're saying, we know who we are, and we are going to pursue it and learn about it. And sometimes that even comes at a major cost, because many of the places where they're living are predominantly Christian societies. And so to openly reject JC and become a minority brings...
Name some of the places that these people are in, so the people...
Right, so the places that we're featuring is Nigeria, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Madagascar, Ethiopia, Uganda. It's in the Ivory Coast. It's in Ghana. It's in Kenya. It's in other places that we're not featuring in the series.
These are not exactly accepting Western civilizations.
Say it again?
Saying these are not exactly what the Western culture is used to. These are not accepting civilizations where you could just do what you want, serve where you want, walk around with a yarmulke, and everyone loves you no matter what. It doesn't work that way. For sure.
Yeah, they're deeply religious societies, and when you go against the grain, people take offense to that, and they become targets in many places that they are. But one other thing I want to point out is that you have essentially two phenomenons taking place at the same time. You have these communities that descend biologically from Israel. In some of the communities, you can even test their DNA, and they share, the Y chromosome markers that Kohanim share with other Kohanim around the world. So there's a lot of hard evidence that supports that they really are who they say they are. And then the other phenomenon taking place simultaneously is groups of people coming forwards and saying, we don't descend from Jewish people, but we have found the Torah, and we believe that it is the authentic spiritual practice, and we want to enter into that covenant. And some of these communities have been doing that for several generations, basically learning Judaism on their own, identifying as Jews, some of them even able to do conversions, some of them halachic through, an Orthodox conversion, although that's very difficult because it's not so accessible to them. But there's a growing movement of people around the world saying that they believe that the Torah is for them and they are going to live it and embrace it, whether or not the Jewish world accepts them. Of course, that's extreme desire of them to be connected to the Jewish world. Most of these people, vast majority, want to make Aliyah. Most of them, the guys, want to learn in yeshiva. They want to serve in the army. I mean, they express that stuff. But it feels like from the experiences that I've had now, meeting so many communities and traveling to many different countries, that the yearning is very genuine. It's not coming from a place of, we're poor, Israel's a rich country, help us get to a better quality of life. It's definitely not that. And I understand why people would think that, and maybe in a small number of cases that is the reality. But overwhelmingly, it's coming from a pure place.
How many of these, you've been to a lot of these different countries, how many of you're saying some of them are not necessarily Jewish people, but have taken, want to be converts, whether they are able to be converts, or maybe they're just more like very devout no-hides, or however you want to call them. But some of these people like preserved their tradition and can date it back, like with the Masorah, all the way back till, as far as they know, just like we are. I'm saying, are there those people?
Yeah, definitely. You have a very small community in Tanzania that descends from Yemenite Jews and Ethiopian Jews who found each other in Tanzania and formed a community together.
Wow.
And they're very small, we're talking like 30 people, but they, through the miracles of Hashem, were able to preserve a unique identity. They knew that they were different. Their parents and their grandparents told them, don't eat this food, and make sure you wash utensils in this way, and, don't go into a church. And they were given these clues and these things that are unique to the Jewish people. Like, they don't exist outside of our culture. It's not like they had documents. They didn't have a written piece of paper that says, Jew on it, but they had.
Neither do we, in a certain sense. Like, if you ask me to prove that I'm Jewish, 10 generations back, I mean, my last name's a Weichebrod, so I'm in the clear. But no one can. I mean, most people can't date back, more than a few generations. It's just can't technically prove anything. Some of these populations do they claim they're from some of the Shvatim, Aser Shvatim?
Yeah, so some of the communities have a specific narrative. Like, for example, the Igbo tribe in Nigeria primarily says that they descend from Shevet Gad.
Wow.
Okay,
that's like their tradition.
That's their tradition, yeah, and they have all sorts of words and locations of cities that align with different biblical words that they feel like connects them to that story. There's other communities that just say, we know that we are Israelites, but we don't have a memory of specifically which tribe we were from.
They just recognize that they've been preserving a tradition which is too close to Judaism to not be a Jew.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And they probably, if they were from one of these other tribes, they wouldn't have been calling themselves Jews. They might have referred to themselves as Gadites, or as Hebrews, or as Israelites. So, but now they overwhelmingly embrace that word Jew, similar to the Ethiopian Jews. Before they made Aliyah, they were not identifying with that word. They had their own word, Beit Israel, the house of Israel. But as they rejoined the rest of the Jewish people, they felt like that label was also something that they could claim.
Wow. And well, first of all, there's you have a trailer for that we could play. I'm saying I could put it on the screen.
So we have a trailer, but we can't play it, and our reason for that is strategic.
Let's hear.
We want to keep this project as low key as possible in terms of releasing it until it's ready to come out.
You don't have a trailer that anyone can see right now?
Nope. I mean, there's like clips on social media of.
Is there anything we can play? I'm saying here on this podcast, just so people get a little taste of what we're talking about.
There's like a fundraising campaign video where we used some of the footage.
Okay, yeah, say anything
that I captured in Africa. But in terms of the actual trailer, we want to keep things low key because this story is so shocking and so revolutionary that I think it'll be better to kind of drop it like a bomb.
Two years ago, our team set out to create a project that documents unknown Jewish communities, starting with the continent of Africa. The story of the tribes of Israel has survived generations as a myth or a legend, when it has always been in fact a reality.
Something's happened in the atmosphere, that it's the moment, it's now. Wake up.
What if the answer to who these people are starts with humanity's awareness? After filming in 9 African countries, overcoming a 3-week kidnapping experience along with unimaginable obstacles, we need your support more than ever to help us complete We Were Never Lost. This documentary is 3,000 years in the making. Be a part of it.
Because this story is so shocking and so revolutionary that I think it'll be better to kind of drop it like a bomb where everyone just has this crazy epiphany. How was this going on? And we didn't know about it. And, because
that's what I felt when I saw the 2 episodes I did see. I was like, how can I be a Jew my entire life and have no idea that there are literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I don't know, whatever number it is of Jews.
Even more.
Right. So again, it's hard to number because we don't know which one of them are which one. How many are originally Jewish? How many of them have taken on Jewish customs? They're all, in my opinion, should all be coming to Eretz Yisrael. We should accept them all in conversions, whatever needs to be done. Let's get them all involved. But so it's hard to know. But the fact is, there are so many of these people, and the Jewish world has no idea. Like, we think here of work is like, trying to convince your neighbor who took off his yarmulke to put it back on. But it's like there is Jews. I'll say this. I've heard a lot of stupid comments over the years in regards to Aliyah. Of why people shouldn't come to Eretz Yisrael. I heard a lot of stupid things. One of the many stupid things I've heard was people say, like, if we all come to Eretz Yisrael, so like, when is the kibbutz golius? What does God need to do? When God promises us He's going to gather us from the 4 corners of the world, and we all just do it on our own. So what's that going to be? So first of all, obviously that's completely insane because this is the kibbutz golius. Hashem facilitated us coming back through miraculous wars such as 48 and 67 and everything in between, the rebuilding of this land and the tragedies that led to this. Obviously, like, this was all orchestrated by God, so that's just, the whole thing is insane. But even if you want to go according to the narrative that God has to do some miracle, it's like, don't worry. There are Jews all around the world that are in serious need of God's intervention to bring them back. Like, don't be worried that God doesn't have who to miraculously gather in. But on that note, why can't, like, when I was watching the film, I mean, I understand a bit, but just, I guess, for the people, why can't these people come to Eretz Yisrael, or even worst case scenario, America? I mean, whatever. Like, why can't they get to a safer, better place where they can pursue their Judaism?
Because the state of Israel does not recognize them as Jews. And that is...
Can they not go to, like, Europe or America have a formal conversion and then come?
Okay, that's very difficult for someone who's coming from Nigeria, first of all, to just get to Europe, just to get permission to be in Europe and to convince the, whatever Jewish society that he happens about that he's really, a part of this family and wants to join formally. And several of them have, okay? I don't know
if these people know what's going on, but they could just, by the way, say that they're Muslim and then England would take them in. Just on a side note.
I don't know about that. But okay, so right now, these communities are not recognized as Jewish people, largely because the state of Israel has not invested the time, resources, and energy to look into their background, understand them, listen to them, and try to figure out a way for them to rejoin the people. It's just like a topic that hasn't yet been addressed. And so when I was saying the reason why we want to keep it secretive, in terms of showing the actual footage, telling the actual story, is because when it comes out, the vision is to wake up the Jewish people to get active, to realize that this is going to be one of the main missions of our generation, to figure out how do we find out who is really a part of our family around the world and how do we embrace them. And it's not going to be a simple process and it's not going to be quick, but it's something that I believe our generation is being tasked with. And so first, it's about creating the buzz, creating the excitement, and creating the love. When you see these people, when you see how they live, when you see how they speak, it creates this desire to just connect with them. And so I think that will be the initial fuel that will jumpstart the process of, whether it's independent groups, whether it's getting a department within the government of Israel to start taking this matter seriously. There's going to need to be some major process that happens to bring in these different communities. And it's probably going to be uniquely designed for each community because, like I said, they have different stories. They came from different places. Some of them are in different levels with where they're at.
When I watched whatever I did watch, what stuck out to me, obviously as an Aliyah advocate, what stuck out to me, and we discussed this, but I just want to say it on camera, so profound was these people, like they were talking about the idea of being able to come, like you were just saying, Eretz Yisrael, the communist regime that runs this country. They don't, they don't want to invest the effort and money and time into bringing these people. But what was in the film, these people, the way these guys, these different Jews around Africa, the way they were talking about their yearning to come to Eretz Yisrael, they were talking about it like to them it's like it's a miraculous dream. It's like they sit around the table talking about like this place called Eretz Yisrael and like, could you imagine being there? Could you imagine the like to them just going to Eretz Yisrael is Moshiach. It's the Gula. It's like that's done. It's a done deal. Just stepping foot into this. That's right. Am I right? That's what it sounded
100%,
like
100%.
to me.
And there are several of them who these are smart people. I mean, they figure out ways, whether it's through a program or whether it's different opportunities that come about, that they make it to Israel. And for them, it's the most fulfilling, meaningful aspect of their life. And they're very sad that they can't stay. But yes, the desire to live here in the land is very strong. And I just want to emphasize again, from literally hundreds of people that we spoke to for long, we interview people for 3 hours at a time. We get their whole life story, their background. Yeah. And the yearning is to come to Eretz Yisrael, to live as a Jew, to observe the mitzvot in the land of Israel. It's not, wow, I'd love to be able to have a nicer car and live in a better house. Like
right.
That's not their priorities.
Not at all, yeah. Yeah, and that's probably the thing that brought me to tears the most while watching it, was just like seeing how somebody who a Jew who does not have the option to come to Israel, and to see in his eyes the tears and the yearning to be here, and then to look at how many Jews can get on a free plane with all their paperwork done in a matter of like 2 months and just get to this land, and they choose not to. And it just leads down, the understanding path that when you can't have something, it becomes much more desirable. And
I want to add one point here, which is that a lot of times we, right now, those of us who understand the situation, we might think of them as, they have a lot to gain from us, and they have so much to learn and so much that they're going to level up once they're here. But I actually think it's the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
And that the rest of the Jewish people have so much to learn from them, from their emunah, from their commitment to their love of being Jewish. Like it's very refreshing. And also because for some of these groups that didn't go through persecution, some of them did, some of them didn't. It depends on which country, but there's kind of like an untainted love. There's no like Jewish guilt. Like there's only Jewish joy. And I think we have a lot to learn from that.
Yeah, that's a big part of it also. Like, which is also why you see so many converts. As soon as they complete their conversion, the first thing they do is like immediately come to Eretz Yisrael. And I've spoken to, here in Eretz Yisrael, you meet a lot of converts, and even Baal Teshuvas, and so many of them flock to Eretz Yisrael because when you don't grow up in this more yeshivish world or whatever, where there's all these weird ideologies and anti-Zionistic nonsense, I don't even know how to label it. A genuine Jew, a person who's not a Jew and becomes Jewish just by reading the Torah, understanding God, wanting to build a relationship with God, and then realizing, okay, I want to be part of the Jewish people. I want to be part of the chosen people. So the immediate reaction to and every single convert that I've spoken to said the same thing. Like, you look at the Torah, they're like, it's a given. Once I'm religious, once I'm a Jew, sorry, not religious. Once I'm a part of the Jewish people, the first thing I want to do is obviously go to the land that I need to be in order to serve God. It's a given. And to these people in Africa, it's a given. It's like my ultimate yearning, like the ultimate goal, other than obviously serving God with all of my heart and all my soul, is to do that in Eretz Yisrael. And when I see these, when I talk to converts, and when I see this film and see all this, and then you look back at Lakewood and Brooklyn, and you just see Jews who have enough money to live here peacefully, who will be accepted by the state of Israel, who will get free flights from them and will be handed, like I did, an envelope with 20,000 shekel in the airport, which is what they gave me. It's like, how do you say no? And then I always look up to God and I say, I can't even fathom how God doesn't necessarily have feelings like us, but like if God had human feelings, could you, like, I would completely disown these people. That's if I was God. It's how can you do it? Like how can God express to the extent that He does, and that it's so obvious to a convert or to anyone who is free of all the smoke. It's so obvious, and then you have so many Jews, with hundreds of thousands of Jews, who make a conscious decision every day not to come to Eretz Yisrael when they can do so, easier than any Jew ever in all of history, times 1,000, and it's crazy. That's why we do what we do here. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's what I took. Obviously, as an Aliyah, Eretz Yisrael minded person, for me that was like the ikker there with your documentary. But obviously, the whole thing is just it's tremendous. And yeah, it's I can't wait for Klal Yisrael to experience what Noam and Rudy have in store for them. I think it's going to change the world in ways that people couldn't even. They don't even know what's coming.
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to do about all the Jews who don't watch and refuse to watch and will just say, like whatever?
Honestly, I think it's going to become such a hot topic that if you haven't seen it, you'll just be left out of the conversation, and the curiosity will be so strong that even the people who don't want to accept it and want to come up with all sorts of arguments as to why we should reject it will ultimately watch it, and maybe something inside of them will be sparked. I'm not expecting that every single Jew is going to watch it and say, I'm an ambassador for these people, but I think that the heart shines through, the genuine shines through, and thankfully, with the help of Hashem, we were able to capture that and put that into a series. And Bezrat Hashem, this year we'll be ready to release it. We still have a few more steps to do to finalize the project, but it's come a very long way. And I'm just so excited.
Do you know when it's being released? Do you have a date yet?
So we don't have a release date. It's kind of like however long it takes is however long it takes, and we're not going to cut corners. We're going to do it.
You want it
properly.
To be perfect.
Yeah, we want it to really make it as strong as we can. But I'm optimistic that it'll come out this year. But this is a story that's been in the works for 3,000 years. So an extra year or whatever it is, it's worth it.
Where's it getting released? Do you want to say? Or?
So we don't yet have a like a distribution deal. So still in the works, but our goal is to go big. Our goal is to get this seen by the whole world. And I think that there's something special here. I think there's something extremely unique. It's not just a Jewish story. It's a story that anybody can connect to because we're talking about identity, belonging, the tensions between different races, spirituality. There's a lot of universal things that I think people can find a reason to connect with.
Anything else? You want to leave the people off with a message?
Yeah.
From all of your work that you've done, all the things you've seen, your journey back to spirituality, your journey to Eretz Yisrael, your journey around the world, meeting all these people. I mean, you probably have more understanding of the Jewish people than 99.9% of Jews in the world. So you have a lot on your shoulders, Noam. Let them know. What do you, out of everything, if you could sum everything up and give the fine Jews of Lakewood, New Jersey, a final message.
So, yes, every single Jew should strive to observe and live aligned with the Torah as much as possible, but that's not enough. In addition to that, every person in the world, I'll speak to more generally, but for the Jewish people, we are activists, we are game changers. And so I want to spread the message that every single person has a role to play. Every person was given a specific set of interests or skills or tools or advantages that they have a responsibility to leverage, to learn about, to improve on, and then find a way to put those skills into action. I remember when I was getting very passionate about filmmaking, I would watch hours and hours of videos learning about how cameras work. And I kind of had this epiphany where I was like, I think most people are not interested in this topic. There's something inside of me. I didn't choose to be interested in cameras. It just so happens Hashem created me in a way that I'm passionate about this. And because I'm passionate about that, I can use my skill set of filmmaking, which I developed over several years, to tell stories that I believe can push the Jewish story forward. And I think every Jew has the ability to contribute to the story, to bring their own light, their own positivity, their own goodness into the world, but it's on them to figure out what that is and how to put that into practice. And I'm happy to be sitting here with you, who is someone who is definitely doing that with all your strength. So I want to give you a bracha to continue, and that the Geula Center should grow and become more prosperous and successful and known around the world. Chazak ve'ematz.
Amen. Wow, shkaich Noam. Shkaich, beautiful. And the work you're doing is unbelievable. All this work is unbelievable. And I truly deeply wish that the Jewish people around the world can connect to this, because this is unbelievable. This is the Geula. And what you're doing is this is all just so redemption oriented. It's unbelievable. And I wish people could connect to that. Okay, let's do the outro. Noam. Guys, it's that time of the day. If you enjoyed today's episode, well, first of all, where can they check out more?
Kavanah Films. That's
Kavanah Films.
I say Kavanah, you say Kavanah.
Oh, Kavanah. Oh, yeah. Kavanah. Did I even notice? I don't even know if I noticed that. That's crazy. I always call it Kavanah. I thought it was like some sort of like tropical island. Kavanah. Kavanah. Wow, that's great. Kavanah Films. That's your video production company. Check it out, guys. I have a video production company too, but use Noam. He's better than me. And we're good. We promote people. And check out Kavanah Films. We'll put it in the thing. Great work. You're probably one of the only other videographers that I probably would trust more than I would trust myself or anyone else, because the standards are low out there, but some people know how to do it. Hashem. Also, wewereneverlost.com or something.
We have a website. There's social media pages, Instagram,
Instagram,
Facebook.
Right.
So you can see a little bit of the content, some iPhone pictures and videos, but the real story is yet to be released.
Oh, so excited! I'm so excited. Okay, So check all that out, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, like always, subscribe, and the most important thing is share these videos with your family and friends, especially those stuck in the exile. Homeboundisrael.com. Check it out. Get involved. Partner with us. Send some donations. Help us continue to grow. Gula Center, Aliyah Advocacy, bringing Jews home. All the work we're doing. Baruch Hashem, we're extremely, insanely successful. Things we're going to talk about it soon, but some stuff happened this week, which, wow, took everything, all the work we're doing here to a level unbelievable. I'll tell you. This is like people ask like, you guys, are you really influencing people? Are people okay? You should see my inbox on people are coming, and we are playing Baruch Hashem, an amazing part in that. So get involved, homeboundisrael.com, kavanahfilms.com, and chazak ve'ematz. We will see you guys in the next one.